This is Halsted. This is an Orange Line train to downtown. Doors closing. Roosevelt is next. Doors open on the left at Roosevelt. Transfer to red and green line trains at Roosevelt. This is Roosevelt. Transfer to red and green line trains at Roosevelt. Doors closing.
Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren is next. Doors open on the right at Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren. Transfer to red, blue, and brown line trains at Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren. This is Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren. Transfer to red, blue, and brown line trains at Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren.
This is an Orange Line train to downtown. Doors closing. LaSalle and Van Buren is next. Doors open on the right at LaSalle and Van Buren. Transfer to Metro trains at LaSalle and Van Buren. This is LaSalle and Van Buren. Transfer to Metro trains at LaSalle and Van Buren. Doors closing. Quincy is next. Doors open on the right at Quincy. Transfer to Metra and Amtrak trains at Quincy. This is Quincy. Transfer to Metra and Amtrak trains at Quincy. Doors closing. Washington and Wells is next. Doors open on the right at Washington and Wells. Transfer to Pink Line and Metro trains and City Hall at Washington and Wells. This is Washington and Wells. Transfer to Pink Line and Metro trains and City Hall at Washington and Wells. Doors closing. Clark and Lake is next. Doors open on the right at Clark and Lake. Transfer to green, blue, and brown line trains at Clark and Lake. This is Clark and Lake. Transfer to green, blue, and brown line trains at Clark and Lake. This is an orange line train to Midway. Doors closing. State and Lake is next. Doors open on the right at State and Lake. Transfer to red line trains at State and Lake. This is State and Lake. Transfer to red line trains at State and Lake. This is an orange line train to Midway. Doors closing.
Washington and Wabash is next. Doors open on the right at Washington and Wabash. Connect to Metra and South Shore Line Millennium Station at Washington and Wabash. This is Washington and Wabash. Connect to Metra and South Shore Line Millennium Station at Washington and Wabash.
Doors closing.
Adams and Wabash is next. Doors open on the right at Adams and Wabash.
Transfer to Green and Brown Line trains at Adams and Wabash.
This is Adams and Wabash.
Transfer to Green and Brown Line trains at Adams and Wabash. Doors closing. Roosevelt is next. Doors open on the left at Roosevelt. Transfer to Red and Green Line trains at Roosevelt. This is Roosevelt. Transfer to Red and Green Line trains at Roosevelt. Doors closing.
Halsted is next. Doors open on the left at Halsted.
This is Halsted.